History remembers the system lords as gods. Terrifying, powerful, eternal. But if you look at their supply lines, their tactics, their very way of thinking, you realize that is a lie. They weren't gods. They were feudal warlords squabbling over scraps, trapped in a system they themselves created. Today, we're conducting a tactical autopsy on the Goa'uld Empire. We're going to dissect this galactic dynasty and expose the fundamental flaws that made its collapse not just possible, but mathematically inevitable. Long before Colonel O'Neill ever stepped through the Stargate, the countdown to extinction had already begun. To understand the Goa'uld, you first need to forget everything you know about modern empires. Don't think of Rome or Britain. Instead, imagine the Holy Roman Empire, but with spaceships and pyramids. That's the Goa'uld reality. It wasn't a unified, centrally governed state. It was a chaotic collection of rival fiefdoms, a fractured landscape of petty kings and ambitious nobles, all constantly at war with one another. Fra was not a president or an emperor in the way we understand it. He was a high king, the first among equals. His genius wasn't in administration or logistics. It was in managing the egos of his rivals. He maintained his power by expertly playing the other system lords against each other, like pieces on a galactic chessboard. He would support Cronus in a conflict against Apophis one decade, then discreetly aid Apophis against Cronus the next. This constant infighting ensured that no single system lord could ever amass enough power, fleets, and armies to challenge his supreme authority on the throne. From Ra's perspective, this was a brilliant strategy for self-preservation. But for the Empire as a whole, it created a fatal strategic flaw. The Goa'uld could never, ever truly unify against an outside threat. Their entire political structure was designed to prevent unity. Every Haddock battlecruiser that Apophis lost fighting Sokar was one less ship available to defend the Empire from the replicators. Every legion of Jaffa that you sent to die in a pointless border skirmish with Baal was a legion that couldn't be deployed against the Tory. This internal conflict wasn't just a political reality, it was a cultural one. Their pride, their arrogance, was a tactical liability of the highest order. They saw cooperation as weakness. A temporary alliance was merely a prelude to an inevitable betrayal. This meant they were always fighting a war on two fronts, one against their declared enemy and another against their supposed allies. The Tory, and later the SGC, exploited this masterfully. We didn't need to defeat the entire Goa'uld Empire. We just needed to poke one system lord and watch as the others pounced on his perceived weakness. Too busy grabbing for territory to notice the real threat growing in their backyard. Now let's talk about their technology, because this is where the hubris of the Goa'uld truly shines. To a Goa'uld, technology is not a tool. It is magic. It is a symbol of divinity. Its primary purpose is not to be efficient or effective in combat. Its purpose is to be flashy, loud, and terrifying. Goa'uld technology is designed to scare peasants into submission, not to win wars against a peer adversary. Consider the quintessential Goa'uld weapon, the staff weapon. It's iconic, right? It fires a big, dramatic blast of energy. It makes a scary noise. It's perfect for intimidating unarmed villagers on Abydos. But as a military weapon, it's awful. It's heavy. It's poorly balanced. It has no aiming sights whatsoever. Its rate of fire is agonizingly slow, and it has a nasty tendency to overheat. A Jaffa armed with a staff weapon is demonstrably less effective than a human soldier with a simple P-90 submachine gun. The P-90 has a higher rate of fire, superior accuracy, and is far more reliable. So, why not improve the staff weapon? Why not add a targeting scope, improve the cooling system, or increase the energy output? The answer is simple and speaks volumes about the Goa'uld psyche. To improve something is to admit it was imperfect to begin with. Innovation requires humility. It requires admitting that you don't know everything, that there is a better way, and a being who has spent thousands of years convincing billions of people that they are a literal, infallible god cannot, under any circumstances, admit ignorance or imperfection. This created a technological prison. For thousands of years, the Goa'uld stagnated. They were trapped by their own propaganda, their warships, their personal shields, their healing devices. They were all based on technology stolen from the ancients millennia ago. They understood how to operate it, how to replicate it, but they had almost no fundamental understanding of the principles behind it. They couldn't innovate, they could only imitate. This is why a brand new hottok, built by Ball in the 21st century, was functionally identical to one built by Ra 3,000 years earlier. Meanwhile, humanity went from horse-drawn carriages to interstellar battlecruisers in just a couple of hundred years. Our strength was our ability to learn, to adapt, to admit we were wrong, and find a better way. That was a concept the Goa'uld were mentally incapable of grasping. This brings us to the core of the SGC's strategy. We didn't win with overwhelming firepower, at least not at first. We didn't have the fleets or the armies to take on the system lords in a straight fight. We won by disrupting their most critical resource, the supply chain of belief. The Goa'uld Empire wasn't built on iron and trinium. It was built on faith and fear. Their power was an illusion, a carefully constructed narrative of divinity. And SG-1 were the ultimate narrative disruptors. When Jack O'Neill and Daniel Jackson killed Ra on Abydos, they didn't just kill a system lord. They fired a bullet through the heart of the Goa'uld's founding myth. They proved that a god could bleed. They proved that a god could die. The psychological shockwave from that event cannot be overstated. Suddenly, for the first time in millennia, the enslaved populations across the galaxy saw a flicker of hope. They saw that resistance was possible. The death of Ra created a power vacuum that exploded across the galaxy. Apophis, ever the opportunist, immediately launched his attack on Earth. But think about his motivation. Was it a sound, strategic move? No, it was a play for prestige. He needed to be seen as the one who would avenge Ra, the one powerful enough to punish the insolent Tory. He needed to look strong to his rivals. This brazen move forced the other system lords to respond, escalating their own posturing and territorial grabs. They began to burn their own resources, their own fleets, their own armies, fighting each other for the scraps of Ra's crumbling domain. The SGC simply tipped the first domino. We killed one Goa'uld. The feudal, self-cannibalizing system did the rest of the work for us. Every time SG-1 freed a planet, killed a minor Goa'uld, or destroyed a mothership, it wasn't just a tactical victory. It was a propaganda victory. It further eroded the foundation of fear and faith that the entire empire rested upon. The Jaffa Rebellion, led by Teal'c and Brotak, was the ultimate culmination of this. The Jaffa were the pillars of the empire, the enforcers of the god's will. When they finally laid down their staff weapons and took up arms against their masters, the empire's fate was sealed. The Goa'uld didn't lose because they were weak. They were incredibly powerful. They lost because their system was fundamentally broken. It was brittle, inflexible, and designed to collapse under its own weight. It was an empire of ego, not of infrastructure. An empire of dogma, not of innovation. It was always, from the very beginning, doomed to fail. But there was one system lord who saw the writing on the wall, one who tried to change the rules, the Goa'uld who understood the value of actual science, of true innovation, of understanding technology instead of just wielding it like a magic wand. He was an outcast, a pariah, a name so feared that the other system lords tried to erase him from history. Anubis, but his story. Well, that is a briefing for another time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tactical breakdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more deep dives into the strategy and lore of your favorite universes. This is Toodles Tales, signing off.